Hello, welcome to the European Open briefing for Friday, November the 11th. I'm Rafi Boyadjian, currency analyst at XM.com, and we're going to be looking at the latest developments in the currency markets today. So after quite an action-packed week, we're seeing major currencies a little bit steadier today, although we do have some volatility with emerging market currencies. The dollar is holding near three and a half months highs versus the Japanese yen. It came very close to hitting 107 yen yesterday. It's slightly down today, but the biggest movers today are emerging market currencies. We're seeing the higher yields in the US, bringing emerging market currencies under pressure, and we're also seeing the euro, the Australian and New Zealand dollars also being impacted by the rising yield differentials. The pound, on the other hand, is doing a bit better, and that's because Donald Trump's victory is seen as more positive for the UK than, say, for the Eurozone, for example. We saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average yesterday close at a record high, and that's because the Dow Jones is dominated by, say, older economy stocks as opposed to technology stocks, and markets are speculating that Trump's policies will give those stocks a bit of a boost if he cuts corporation tax, for example. So let's begin with the dollar yen. We can see that dollar is holding near yesterday's highs, currently around 106.74 yen. And as we've mentioned already, the US currency is lifted by the prospect of the boost to economic growth and inflation from a looser fiscal policy under Donald Trump. We had some comments from Richmond's Fed President Jeffrey Lacker. He said that the Fed could raise rates more quickly if Donald Trump adopts his proposed policies of higher spending and tax cuts. And those policies is what's giving the Dow Jones a bit of a boost. In contrast, the Nasdaq, which is technology dominated, is down, and that's because old economic stocks such as, say, car manufacturers, for example, they're more likely to benefit from Trump's policies as opposed to, say, policies such as anti-immigration. Technology stocks rely a lot on recruiting talent from abroad, and so they might suffer. So that's one of the factors impacting negatively on US technology stocks. If you look at what's happening with the US yields, we can see the 10-year Treasury yields. We can see it's really rallied quite strongly since the election outcome. It's currently above 2.1%. The biggest impact has been on emerging market currencies because investors are fearing that there's going to be an outflow of funds from emerging market assets to US assets. That's hurting the Mexican peso, the Brazilian real, and Malaysian ringgit, some of the examples, but also the Korean won is also under pressure, as well as the Indonesian rupee. So those are the main movers this morning. As safe haven assets, gold is still under pressure. It's currently near 4-week lows at $1,255 an ounce, while the Chinese yuan, another emerging market currency, that's also under pressure. It hit a fresh 6-year low of 6.8156 per dollar, although that's also due to the fact that the Chinese central bank is setting a low midpoint in line with the market moves. If you look at what's happening with European currencies, the euro is it's fallen below $1.09, currently just below that level. That's a 2.5-week low, and that's because of the growing yield differentials between the Eurozone and the US. The pound, on the other hand, we can see it's back above $1.25. That's mainly, it's really hard to say. The part of the reason why the pound is doing well is because the euro is going down both against the pound and the dollar, and that's in turn is affecting the pound positively against the dollar, but also because there's speculation that it's going to improve the UK's chances of a better Brexit deal both with the US and the Eurozone, because the UK is, first of all, Donald Trump supported Brexit, but also because the UK is no longer seen as isolated in terms of the anti-establishment move as such. That's one of the factors affecting the pound that's currently helping the pound higher. But also we have other risk events coming up in the Eurozone that's currently pressuring the euro, such as the constitutional referendum in Italy later in the year. We've got French presidential elections next year. So those factors are also weighing on the euro. So that's in turn giving a boost to the pound. Euro pound is actually down 4% since the outcome of the US elections. If you look at other risk currencies, the Kiwi and the New Zealand dollar, they're both under pressure. Again, that's because of one of the factors that was supporting both currencies prior to the US elections was the fact that both the Aussie and the Kiwi had were higher yield earners against the US dollar. We saw a rate cut yesterday by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and now we're seeing rising yields in the US. So we're seeing that declining differential between the Aussie and the Kiwi yields versus the US dollar, and that's pressuring both currencies since the election. And that comes despite the fact that commodity prices, such as mainly base metals such as iron ore and copper, are doing rather well on the prospect of the increased infrastructure spending in the US. But for now, that isn't having a positive effect on the Australian dollar. If we look at today's calendar, we can see it's a fairly quiet day. We don't have any major data. We did have final inflation readings for Germany for October, which were confirmed at 0.8% year on year in October. We've got construction data coming out shortly out of the UK, and the main data to look forward to in the US session is the University of Michigan, the preliminary reading for November, which is expected to come in slightly stronger compared to October at 87.5 in November. But also to watch out, we've got Fed Vice Chair Stanley Fischer. He will speak on US monetary policy and the global economy in Chile later in the day. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.